This is the broken vault uncovering the truths they never wanted you to hear. Geopolitical tensions are just, well, they're boiling over. You see it in the headlines every day. Something big is unfolding right now. And today, we need to cut through all that noise. We need to understand what's really happening.
Exactly. We're zeroing in on Israel's Operation Rising Lion, what it means for Iran's nuclear program, yes, but also what it means globally for you. We'll break down the events, the immediate fallout, and then look at the bigger picture, the potential long-term shifts.
Okay, so let's get specific. Operation Rising Lion, what actually happened in the last, 48 hours? The scale sounds immense. Reports mention 200 warplanes and 1,400 missiles.
That's the scale we're hearing.
Yeah.
And the targets were very specific. Key Iranian nuclear sites. Think Natanz, Isfahan, Iraq, even the Fordow site, the one buried deep near Qom.
So really going after the core infrastructure.
Precisely. And here's the thing. Iran apparently spent 8 months building up this capability, and now it seems to be crumbling in, well, just a couple of days.
That's incredibly fast. But beyond the strategic win, there's a human cost, isn't there?
A devastating one. We're hearing about senior commanders, key experts killed, but also, tragically, hundreds of Iranians. Civilians, too. And it's not just the immediate casualties. The infrastructure in Tehran is reportedly reeling. Electricity, medical systems. It paints a picture of a nation really struggling.
So a massive blow. How did Iran hit back?
They did respond, right?
It did, described as a limited but fierce counterstrike. Missiles and drones.
Limited but fierce. So what impact did that have?
Well, most were intercepted, apparently. That's key. But one missile did get through. It hit a hospital in Beersheba. Reports say 71 injured.
Wow. Okay, so even a limited response has real consequences. And Iran's official stance?
Defiant. Absolutely defiant. Their foreign minister vowed retaliation at all costs, said, quote, "The game is not over."
The game is not over. That sounds ominous. How's the rest of the world reacting to all this? Predictably, with huge concern. The UN Security Council jumped into emergency discussions almost immediately. And the IAEA, that's the UN's nuclear watchdog, they put out a serious warning about radiological dangers if these sites took too much damage. Radiation release.
Right. A nightmare scenario. Any word from, say, the U.S.?
Well, Donald Trump reacted, called the Israeli attacks a spectacular military success. And interestingly, he said he's weighing potential U.S. involvement within 2 weeks, which, adds another layer of complexity.
Definitely. So this brings us to the big question, doesn't it? Is this really the end of Iran's nuclear program? Or is it the start of something much, much worse? I mean, if Iran's program is effectively dismantled, the power dynamic shifts hugely, right? Israel clearly gains, maybe the U.S. too.
On the surface, yes. A major strategic win for Israel, potentially more U.S. influence. But, and this is a big but, there are serious warnings coming out. We're hearing from advisors, both from the Biden era and the Trump era, cautioning against pushing too hard.
Why? What's the fear?
The fear is that it escalates uncontrollably, that it turns into a, quote, full-scale regime change operation, something nobody seems to want. And don't forget Iran's threat. They've talked about shutting down the Strait of Hormuz.
An oil choke point.
Exactly. A third of the world's seaborne oil goes through there. Shutting it down could absolutely cripple the global economy. That's their leverage if more strikes happen.
So if Iran doesn't back down after this, what are we looking at?
Well, several pretty grim scenarios. A wider regional war is definitely possible, potentially pulling in the U.S., the U.K., maybe Saudi Arabia. Then there's the geopolitical angle. Right. Russia and China could use the chaos to, reshape the global balance of power significantly.
And the economic fallout you mentioned.
Massive disruption. Blockades, oil prices skyrocketing.
Okay.
It could trigger a global economic crisis. And perhaps the most terrifying thought, if Iran feels cornered, could this ultimately lead towards a nuclearized Middle East, not away from it? If they decide retaliation means getting their own deterrent somehow.
It really underscores how interconnected everything is. One operation spirals into potentially global consequences. It's incredibly precarious.
It really is. And that's the key takeaway, I think. Look beyond the immediate headlines, the explosions, the immediate responses. Think about how these events ripple outwards, how power dynamics might be shifting permanently based on what happens next or what doesn't happen. Consider the long game here. Stability, the economy, international relations, it's all in play.
You've been inside the broken vault. Stay curious, stay alert, and remember, the real threats are always hidden.